Hi, Cheryl, and welcome back to the Recruitment Marketing and Sales Podcast. It's great to have you back for today's conversation.
Thanks, Sharon, and it's really nice to have me. Thank you.
Now, there will be people, obviously, that are familiar with you from our previous conversations, and we will have new listeners as well. So maybe before we dive into today's chat, could you just give our listeners a brief introduction to Cheryl Winger, the whiz expert in recruiting recruiters and lots of other things?
That's a really nice intro to start with. Thanks, Sharon. Yes, so we are a partner really to the recruitment market at GSR2R. I've been recruiting recruiters for 25 years. And for about the last 5 years, we've also been working with businesses directly who want to actually bring recruiters in themselves. So we offer the two different services now with the ability that we wanted to really be able to help everybody. And people want different services. They want to give it to a rec to rec. And sometimes they want to be in control themselves, but obviously being able to do that with our methodologies really helps. So I think rather than just a traditional rec to rec, we're a partner in hiring really when it comes to attracting, bringing in and retaining the best talent in recruitment.
Absolutely. And, and lots has been happening in the recruitment markets. So you spend your days working with businesses, in various capacities and, broadly across the UK now as well. So I guess it'd be interesting to just maybe get your perspective on how have you seen the market evolve this year, perhaps, compared to previous years?
It's a good question, actually, Sharon. And I think, look, just to start with, I have to be really sort of authentic about this. It's been tough for recruitment businesses out there. I feel like this has been a year of ups and downs. And definitely one of the things that my clients are reporting is they've had personal best months this year, and everyone's been really positive. And then 2 months later, they've seen some things happen in the market that will make them realise that it's slowing down or it's not so buoyant again. So I think what everyone's looking for, we've missed this year, is definitely consistency.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
And I think that's what we're all looking forward to for 2025. I think this is our wish list. So I think it's been tough. I think also we're on the back of, some more change that we've seen in the recruitment market than we have in my 25 years post-COVID.
Yeah.
So I think it's also tough because this has been going on for so long now, and when we've been in recessions before, we go in, we come out, it gets better. We see the cycle. Where right now, I think we're just still stopping and waiting to see what happens. Although on a real positive side, what we have seen, and this is what I love about recruitment businesses actually, is the move forward with new things. So there's been a lot of growth of businesses bringing in new sectors. Maybe looking at what other services they can give to their existing clients. So rather than rely on the revenue that's coming in to be able to hit budgets and targets, they've actually looked at new ways to do that. And I guess as a rec to rec, that's where we've come in. Because we've been placing like really good individuals who will build new sectors and new desks for people. So it's definitely been a year of, yes, it hasn't been as easy as it's been before and there's been lots of challenges, but also they've took those and put some positivity out of it as well.
I mean, so I guess building on that, with those challenges and everything else that the industry is grappling with, I suppose, when you think forward to 2025, and I'm sure, you've been having conversation with the clients about this as well, what do you see perhaps will be some of the challenges that, they will be facing, as an industry next year and maybe a little bit beyond?
When it comes to bringing in recruiters
and just that hiring market within recruitment.
I think the landscape's definitely changing because up until maybe last year, or actually definitely up until 2020, I always would have said to you, the number one challenge always is being able to attract recruiters, getting them through the door. But actually, that's not the number one challenge anymore because people do tend to move in a tougher market. Recruiters have got one eye open on what's happening right now with their competitors. So I would say the challenges that we've definitely seen this year that will probably go into next year will be things like being able to balance hybrid working. So,
Ah,
there's a lot of going on around what business owners want to happen versus what their teams want versus
mm,
bringing in new people.
mm,
I think they've also got to balance that of being able to bring in sort of trainees and new people into the business that they might want in the office a
yeah.
lot versus, bringing in experienced people that are going to build out these new things for them because
Mm,
they have market experience, etc., who might not want to be in the office so much.
yeah.
So I think that's definitely an ongoing problem. And I speak to a lot of business owners about tackling that individually for them.
Mm,
I think the other thing when it comes to hiring is really being able to hire people who can do BD.
yes. Yeah. I think
Because
when I think of a lot of the conversations that I have, yes, some of my conversation about marketing, but we never have a marketing conversation without talking about BD and the number of companies that I have talked to this year who, because things were so great on the bounce back post COVID, that just got out the habit of
yes.
BD.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually, if you think about it, any recruiter that joined the industry in 2001, 2002, that might now have 3, 4 years experience may never have had to do BD. So,
No, and never been trained in it.
right, absolutely. And possibly right now, what we're hearing is they don't want to do it.
Mm,
So people are having to buy in that experience. And, that is more expensive, as a
mm,
business to be able to do that. So I
mm,
think really being able to bring in those really good 360 all round recruiters and
mm.
possibly, that have networks that can bring people in for you as well, new
Yeah,
clients.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And sorry, you're just going to finish.
I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. From a point of view, with your clients, 100% marketing is what they need to do with BD.
Mm,
Bringing in my great recruiters is excellent, but they have to have your marketing with them
mm,
for success in
mm.
today's market.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about, perhaps, trainees.
Mm,
So I was reading something, a report recently about, by the end of next year, 2025, 25% of the marketplace,
mm,
or sorry, 25% of employees
yeah,
globally are going to be Gen Z. And so you were talking about perhaps, balancing people who want to work from home, people want that flexibility, but perhaps having trainees in the office because there are benefits of that as well. When you think about that whole Gen Z conversation, what are some of the considerations that perhaps companies need to think, and how can they work with Gen Zs? Because that Gen Zs can get some bad press, and yet they've been brought up in a different world to you and I, for sure, and yet how they use tech, we've got so much that we can learn from them. And yet I know that a lot of people perhaps may not quite know how to get the best out of working with, that generation.
absolutely. And I think some of the challenges also, Sharon, come from the fact that you might have 3 different generations in your
Oh,
office, all
yeah.
wanting to do things differently. And actually, as the leader, it's your job to be able to bring them together. And that can be quite challenging. Just to think about your stat you had there, Sharon, I read recently that by 2028, which realistically is 3 years and a couple of
Mm,
weeks,
yeah.
42% of our recruitment market employees are going to be Generation Z. So it's
Wow.
a really good question because actually, if you're going to grow your business in the next 3 years, it's likely to be who you are hiring and
Mm,
you've got to get
mm,
on board. And you are absolutely right. They've had some really bad press, Gen Z, in our market actually, and to the point that I think people are looking beyond hiring these people to what else they can do. But as we've just said,
mm,
it is something they've got to get on board with. And when you look into it, it's reported that over 50% of Gen Zs will have a side hustle that will make them money on top of their main job. And when you think about that kind of motivation, you think, actually, you're exactly the right kind of person we want in the
mm,
recruitment market. You're actually having a side hustle and having your own business. So they absolutely can work in our market.
mm,
And I do have companies that have really championed them and are doing really well. Top performers are coming from that generation. But we do have companies also that are having the challenges that most people know about, that I don't want to go to massively into, and down that negative drain right now, but they are having problems with them. And something actually I just want to highlight before we go into what you can do, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, that Gen Z at the moment are like 26, 27. So actually they could have 6-7 years in recruitment. They can be our recruitment managers at the moment. They're definitely our leaders, big billers, and it's not going to be long before they start opening their own companies.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of people think about them coming in as trainees, but they're really, they're quite far into their recruitment career right now. They've definitely, if you think about it, if they joined 6 years ago, they've gone through 2 years of a normal market and 4 years of the up and down that we've all been through. So they would be the kind of people that people would want to hire right now, with a network to be able to move forward. So I think if we look at the challenges first of where it could be going wrong, I think Gen Z are very entrepreneurial people. As you just said, they've been brought up with tech. They actually know no different, basically. If you're Gen Z, you've never lived without Amazon, basically. So you click, you get it. If you don't like it, you write a review, and that's the whole world. And they are taking that sort of attitude into their workplace. So I think if you're a recruitment business and you've been working for a long time and you have your way of working and you're expecting that generation to come in and be directed in the way that you do it, and for them just to repeat it, that's probably where the challenges are going to come.
Right. Yeah.
However, my companies that are championing these Gen Zs at the moment, they are using really good tech. And they're letting them find ways to shortcut things that maybe we haven't managed to yet, or have taken us a long time.
Yeah.
Talking to my companies, one of the things they bring up when they talk about that generation is you really have to let them be heard. So their meetings are a lot around asking opinions, asking for advice. What would they do? Again, rather than just telling. And what they went on to say about that, because we surveyed them actually, was, and then you have to give them space to do what they want to do. And what they were saying was that to motivate that generation, it's more than money and targets. So KPIs, targets, and what they get on their pay packet is a really traditional method for what recruiters get given to motivate them. And they will want that in their pay packet. But they'll want it to come from the purpose of the business, the values of the business, and the deal and the money to come from how much of a difference they've made to that client and that candidate. So my companies that are doing really well are fostering cultures around, this is our purpose, this is what we do, this is why we're important, these are the changes we're making, rather than if you get one more deal, you'll get another £1,000.
Right.
So that, we're still doing the same job, but how they're talking about it and what's becoming important, I think has to change.
And I think the other thing, listening to you talk about that, is that the outcome, let's say, of matching a candidate with the right potential new company, an employer, the outcome's the same, but perhaps how they get there, the tools that they might use, potentially is going to be different, and that it's having that little bit of freedom for them to navigate that and create a different way of doing it. I think that's kind of like what I'm hearing. There's no right or wrong way. There's an effective way, absolutely. But if someone's got X number of years of experience and their way of working is working and it's still delivering, it's still adding value, well, then that's fine. It's working for them, but it doesn't mean to say that it's going to work for somebody else, does it? And I
absolutely,
think,
yeah. And I think what we're saying is, if your business works one way, and my business is probably a bit like that actually, that if you bring these people in, and you've got to find this out on the interview stage, right? So your interview stage has got to be highlight this. But if you bring them in on these are the 5 things we're going to teach you to do, then you might find you'll get some pushback on that. Where a lot of this generation are choosing to go into businesses where they're working with clients that are growing fast. So therefore, it's like we're working with conception clients to get in their first 100 people, and that's excited and that's purpose
Right.
driven. And
Right.
that might bring X amount of billings, but they're not just working towards the billings. You'll find a
Yeah.
lot of that generation will want to go into healthcare recruitment or education because they feel like they're aligned to that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here and generalize and say there's none
No.
of them out there that is going to want to earn, the 100K and buy the house in the first year that, we all came into recruitment to do many moons ago. But I think if we're looking at, the majority and when we study them and, you look at any papers about them, it is about values and purpose.
Yeah.
But I think our industry full stop and people hiring, that is more what we're hearing, even of different generations.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that generation are coming with a voice when they talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And they expect to see action as well, I think is what,
Abs-
what I hear and experience.
because
So go on, sorry.
I was going to say because they're called the Amazon kids, right? So they
Yeah.
click, they see, they get. I mean, that's action, isn't it? Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
So let's kind of like flip it then for a second and go to let's possibly a slightly different generation then of experience, because these can be experienced people as well. But when you think about experienced recruiters just
yeah,
generally then, you know, what they're looking for, what are the main reasons, let's say, why they might be looking to move in, what is kind of like still, uncertain market
yeah,
in many ways, because there was a time, we've worked together for years now, there was a time when people would sit tight.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
what's driving people to move today?
Look, I genuinely think COVID really changed our market when it came to recruiters moving.
Mm,
So say 20 years of recruiting recruiters up to COVID, always saw it as difficult. My clients always said to me, oh, I couldn't do your job. There's so few recruiters that move. And it was the number one pain point we heard all the time. We've hired one person because we've seen one person. There was no one on the market.
mm,
And then in COVID, it was just like people went through their own personal journey, but it was all to do with what I've just gone back to: values, purpose, work-life balance. How do I have this amazing career, but be who I am as well? So,
mm,
I don't want to come in on the train anymore for an hour every day. That's 10 hours of my life a week, where I could be doing something with my kids.
mm.
And and we really saw that. And what started to happen was that we had people call us up and say things like, I've just realised I'm not happy. I earn lots of money, but I just realised I'm not happy. So that real purpose thing started to come out of COVID.
Right.
And then I think recruiters are looking to move now. And if anyone gets my information from GSR Trois, I've championed now for 2.5 years that top performing recruiters right now are moving. And if
Mm,
there's anybody that you have never really approached because you're in your competitors and they'll never leave, now is absolutely the time to approach them. And
right.
I would say all my clients have lost some of their top performers in the last 2 years, just to show you that recruiters
Right.
really are looking.
Yeah.
So I think what's driving that is uncertainty in the businesses that they're in.
Right. Hmm.
And that comes down to perception, to be honest with you, Sharon. I
Yeah.
sometimes think, I don't know if I don't know if that's a big enough reason to leave, but it'll be because they've made some more junior people redundant. Well, you and I as business owners know that's going to happen in this market, but
Mm,
that will unsettle your top performers. So
mm,
I think actually communication is what's really key here.
yeah.
And sometimes if communication isn't as brilliant as they want it to be, because I know
Right.
businesses try their best,
Mm,
they will be calling us. But I think, what's not up there, believe it or not, is money.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finance will be something they talk to us if they get to deal. It's
Yeah.
not very few people come to us with I want 20% on my basic salary. It will be, I want to work with people that I really am inspired by.
Mm,
Words I hear a lot at the moment are, I want to work with my tribe. I want to work in
mm,
a culture where I feel valued and we have the same purpose. And then the other thing we're definitely seeing people because of is hybrid flexi working.
Yes, and I think you mentioned, right at the outset in terms of it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, isn't it, in terms of, employers with this drive to get people back in the office. It's not what a lot of employees want, not to the degree perhaps employers want, 5 days a week and stuff. And there's going to be a bit of a wrangle here. And also, I was, we were talking at our recent Superfast Circle event about, global talent shortage, and I shared lots of great information from the Manpower research that they do. This talent shortage that we've got, Cheryl, it's not going to go away in the next couple of years, is it? It's here to stay, and that's going to affect all kinds of employers, and it's going to affect recruitment companies as well. And so, if you're really struggling for quality talent, then it will be interesting to see, how employers are pushed and recruitment owners are pushed to be more flexible.
Yeah.
And they might not want to be. So that's I don't know if you've got something that you want to speak into directly about that.
I just think it's a really interesting scenario because, of course, in COVID, and we came out of COVID and we had the boom market, everyone was just like, okay, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, we're making money, it's all okay. And then, of course, the market got tougher and the first thing they wanted to do is bring their teams back. And, I understand why. I understand why they want culture, they want motivation, they want people together, you want to bring in juniors, they're going to learn. But then I also talked to candidates who moved out of London and got a dog and, had a different life, but are still performing really well. And I see both sides of the story,
Yes.
Both sides of what people want. And I agree with both of them, actually. So what's happening is, I think some companies are having lots of different hybrid, depending on, what they need. They're having fully remote plus office, and they're giving it like, what do you need? But still having a community online for everybody.
Yes.
Some people are being very like, okay, back in the office 4 days a week, and therefore they're losing people. So I think the other thing is what we also did was we had true flexi hours at one point when the market was good. So, you could, as long as you did your hours a week or a day, it didn't matter if you did the school run or you went to the gym in the morning, and those things are changing. And I think it's a reason why people are leaving. But I also think, Sharon, what we've got to be really careful of, because you've just said something very real about the talent shortages, we've got to be attractive to bring people into our market. To be able to have experienced recruiters in 2, 3, 5 years' time. And probably the Generation Z, more than any market or any candidate, are the people who straight away go, how many times a week have I got to go into the office? So, because they've been brought up with flexibility, it's not new for them, So for them, it's this is how the world is.
Yeah.
So if we've got lots of people, and the bigger companies can be like this, are in 5 days a week, they're not going to attract those people. So I wonder next year, as the market does get busier, because I know we all hope it happens, but there's some signs with my clients that things have. We picked up more roles so far this month, so it is looking better. And as the traction of their clients come back with more roles, and they have to bring people in quickly, if they're going to have to relook at that again.
And so when you think about perhaps what experienced recruiters are looking for when they're looking to move, what's driving that decision, what they want from another employer, as an employer, are some of those expectations realistic? How do employers meet those needs in a way that meets the candidate need but meets the business need as well? Because the office hour hybrid, that's only one element of the overall
Of
offer,
the purpose and
it?
and the why and everything. And I agree. And actually, Sharon, when we work directly with clients and we always have a strategy call, the number one thing I say to them is, if your offering doesn't match what the candidate's looking for, you're not going to get off the starting blocks when it comes to hiring, or you are going to hire, but they're going to leave quite quickly, and you're going to, waste money and go in that circle, basically. So it's a really good question that's really important. what I would really encourage businesses to do is to just sit down and really think about what our offering is. Like, what for the clients and candidates that we work with, what do we need to be, like what do we need to look like so we're there for them? But then internally, what structure can we put together that might be slightly different than where we are? That means that we're going to attract the best people. It means that we're going to be okay to bring in a graduate and a trainee, and it's going to be okay to bring in someone with 15 years who's going to bring in new business to us. And you absolutely can do that, by the way. But like you'd sit down and talk about your BD strategy, or you'd talk about your candidate generation strategy, you've got to sit down and actually talk about what it is internally you want to look like, and then how you bring people in. And actually working with people, Sharon, I think very few people take the time to do that, because they just are what they are. And every time they see somebody, they might just move the jigsaw puzzle a little bit. But that purpose and culture I've been talking about that people want to join, that's actually what you really need to work out and be able to talk about in the interview process, because that will get you top performing recruiters more than a 5K on their basic.
Right. And it is, in a way, I'm quite heartened to hear that, within, when you think about the economic environment that we're in as well, that, I know the price rises and inflation's kind of, dropped a little bit, but we're still seeing price rises. Everybody's pockets pinched a little bit more, but yet while we all need cash in our bank accounts to pay all those bills, that there are other things that's driving, let's say, people's choices around where they take their talent and everything. Just thinking then about, you touched on earlier when we were talking about Gen Z, about technology. Just kind of like briefly, I mean, what have you seen in terms of that focus on technology and how people are embracing it and the impact that it's making?
Definitely. Cheryl, I'm going to answer that question, but can I just quickly go back to the finance? Because what I don't want to do is be like, oh, recruiters don't want money anymore. Don't worry about it. Give them 10K basics. That's not what I'm saying.
No, absolutely not. I get that.
Just going to say that. And actually, we're not seeing recruiters go backwards on their packages to go to people. When it comes to basics, but we are seeing a more willingness of them to lose their OTE while they rebuild something. Right. And actually, we've just done our stats at the end of the year, and the average person we placed at GSR2R got an uplift of 15 to 30% this year, because they're building something, mainly 70%. I think it's 72% were building, and the other 28 were rehires. So, but what they're not doing is saying, they're not calling us and going, I'm underpaid.
Yes.
So when they become our candidate, of course, we start talking about money, and that becomes important. But the reasons that they're calling us are, more emotional.
Yes,
let's be happy. Yeah. So I just wanted to make that really clear.
Great. I'm glad.
I want all your podcast listeners to be calling me saying, Cheryl, get me some great recruiters for 25K. I hear you're brilliant at it, because that would be stressful. But I think we need to talk about beyond the money, because so many people rely on, we'll just have the best commission structure and that's how we get people. So I just really want to bring that up.
Yeah, no.
Back to your technology question. Sorry, Sharon. Zigzag all over the place there. It's an interesting one, actually. People will ask, definitely, around some LinkedIn tools, etc. I think for us, it's more when our clients say we have an excellent tech stack, and then they go through what their tech stack is. And it might be even that, part of that is that they are working with you, Sharon, or that they're working with other external people, and they have a database that can track when people are opening emails, and and LinkedIn Recruiter and Sourcewell and all those things. And there's so many things on the market now.
There are.
So I think when our clients have that and we take that to candidates, they're really pleased about it.
Right.
There are, I don't want to particularly promote things on here, but, the number one thing they all want, of course, is LinkedIn Recruiter. And, so we have people ring up and ask for that. And they will ask about their tech in the interview process, but I don't think it's not a point that we're hearing so many people talk about now that I need to start saying to people, you need to up what you're doing on your tech side.
Yeah. And I suppose while we're talking about that, when you think about marketing and the role that marketing plays in terms of, generating demand, creating that visibility for the company, for the brand, that can help people with obviously personal branding. Is that how are candidates looking at how a company, invests in marketing and how that helps them?
That's really important, actually, Sharon, because one of the things that has changed is, I would speak to somebody 10 years ago and I would tell them what a great company I'm working with them and they would have a chat with them. But now they go, let me check them out. So now
Right.
my conversation with them is a part of it.
Yeah.
But if I have a really good conversation about a client and then they check them out and they haven't posted for a month and there's no jobs on their website, I mean, that's something they really look at, by the way, and they come back and they say, no. So actually, and again, we teach this in direct.
Mm,
We're part of the job, but you now have to also work with us. So your join us page needs to be decent, basically, and not just an afterthought once you've done an amazing website, which I see quite a lot. Because really, your marketing, your join us page, everything is your shop window for recruiters.
yeah.
And it's so visible now. And if you're not looking after your shop window, then they're not going to come and have a chat with you.
Mm,
And it's really important part of their cycle to decide who they're going to see. And on the flip side of that, Sharon, I'm sure everybody listening knows some companies that have high turnover of staff or just not the best, but their marketing is brilliant. And
right.
therefore they're seeing the best recruiters. So
Mm,
it really is something I think, and I actually say, if your strategy and we've got your culture and what you're offering is brilliant and your marketing is really good, you're going to attract recruiters. You don't actually have to then do the next piece. And a lot of clients we've worked with, we've just changed those two steps and they've seen an uplift of recruiters. So
mm,
when most people go straight to third, attraction, without one and
mm.
two, and they go, it doesn't work. I know it doesn't, to be honest with you.
No.
So I hope I got over there, Sharon, actually, that when it comes to attracting recruiters, not just clients and candidates, doing
Mm,
marketing strategy around that piece is
yes.
super important.
Yeah. Now, I am super conscious of time, and I just got two quick questions.
Yeah.
I'll just slide those in. One is just touching on what we've already talked about with how the market's evolved with technology, etc., etc. Challenges, let's say, being a talent short market. What are some of the core skills that you find yourself interviewing for now that maybe you haven't as much previously, or has it changed, or how has it changed?
That's a really good question, Sharon, that I'm going to give myself 10 seconds to ponder on. Um, well, I think number one, okay, is we are now all marketing social media experts, and that wouldn't have been my chosen profession, just to let you know.
Yeah.
I am your average person who came into recruitment 25 years ago because I had a bit of personality and I loved communicating with people. So I think now what we do is a lot more strategic.
Hmm.
When it comes to finding top talent, it's a lot
Yeah.
more about really understanding who you want and being able to go out and talk to that person. Because there's
Mm,
a piece before you recruit now that you have to do before you even get to talk to anybody. And I think actually, if you're asking me, that's the biggest thing. I used to be able
right.
to call people and they would talk to me. I've
Mm,
now got to build a relationship
yeah.
through email, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, marketing who we are, recommendations, etc.,
Mhm.
before I even get a conversation. Because I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone is the same. When we have the conversation, we fly,
Yeah.
but that bit in between, and I think if you why we just I've never really thought about that, so it's a great question. But people coming into recruitment now, that would just be a natural part of the job for them.
Yeah.
That's
Mm,
just part of recruitment.
mm,
Where for me, that's something I had to evolve and learn
yeah.
and actually,
Adapt.
and adapt. And Sharon, I have you to thank that because 2008, you first taught me how to do that. So thank you.
You're
But
very welcome.
yeah, so I think that's definitely different. And I think the interview process is different because
Mm,
we're not interviewing, around what development do you want, how much money do you want, what train do you get? We're now interviewing around softer things, and bringing in
mm,
like although we always got to know our candidates and human to human, we are now talking about purpose, and values is a big word. And sometimes we're working out people's work values in our interview process.
mm. Yeah, fantastic. And so in summary then, let's say if you were giving guidance to your clients or anybody that you're talking to in terms of like three key things that you think are going to be critical for a recruitment owner when they are hiring next year, what would you say, perhaps, if you can narrow it down to three things? Yeah, mm, right. No. Mm, right. Mm, yes. Mm, great advice. Great advice. I could talk to you forever. But listen, thank you so much for your time. Now, if people actually want to get hold of you, Cheryl, where can they go? Give us some contact info. Mm, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, yeah, and that's great. That's fantastic. Well, listen, great talking to you again. Um, no doubt we will speak very soon. Take care. Mhm. Oh, now then, where's it stop? Stop. There we go.